Over a cup of coffee, we reminisced and shared stories of Canter Immerman coming to our classroom during our Hebrew lessons and teaching us Hebrew songs. I too had my story, and searching through my man drawer, I found the original cassette of my bar mitzvah portion, sung so clearly by Canter Immerman, with every word and tone enunciated with crystal clear clarity. I have no doubt that thousands of similar cassettes are lying in drawers all over the world. I remember so well all the occasions when I came into contact with Canter Immerman. "Hi Canter, it's Jeff Cohen," I would say. "Ah, Parashat Bo, 22nd January 1972, he would say, remembering the Torah portion he had taught me so many decades ago and the exact date of my bar mitzvah. Lisa and I chatted about and brainstormed various options of honoring such a man, and it was Lisa's creative ability and talent which led to the production of this incredible project that would appropriately honor the legendary Canter Abe Immerman. Our aim is to use this project to educate our pupils, as well as the members of our community, on the incredibly valuable lessons that we can still learn through the legacy of Canter Abe Immerman. In today's world of instant gratification, with Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and WhatsApp, it is so easy to forget about those incredible men and women who impacted on our lives. So often we let unsung heroes and heroines go unacknowledged. We have a responsibility to preserve and actively promote those amongst us who impacted on the lives of so many. Tonight is the launch of this project that we have called Legacy of Light, that we hope will not only honor and remember Canter Immerman, but will also continue to learn from the lessons he taught us and the legacy he has left for us. Canter Immerman well will remember how he used to say that he came forth on the 4th of the 4th. He was born on the 4th of April. This would have been the perfect day to hold the function. But as time went by, we realized that our timing was too ambitious and the venue was going to be too small. The interest in this project was starting to grow, so we changed the venue to the small shul just next door. Then we quickly realized that this too was going to be too small. And with the help of Gavin Morris and Rabbi Feldman, we moved the venue once again to this magnificent garden shul. If I close my eyes, I can still see Canter Immerman standing on that limmer just over there, at the shoulder of one of the many hundreds of bar mitzvah boys he taught, his calming presence offering them some small semblance of reassurance and a little confidence. I never imagined that over 370 people would come along tonight to honor the memory of a man who touched so many souls and who added a little bit of light to their lives. Although he couldn't see, he always maintained that there was a bright shining light in everything, hence the name of our project, The Legacy of Light. It has been an honor and a privilege to be involved in this amazing project, and I want to thank Lisa for making that initial phone call to me in November last year. It gave me the opportunity of remembering, honoring, and celebrating Canter Abe Immerman, Zichrono Livracha. It now gives me great pleasure to call on Lisa Chant, the creator of this incredibly valuable project. Through her work on this project, she has given our Cape Town community the opportunity of honoring a true legend of our time, and I have no doubt that his legacy will continue to be a bright light for many generations to come. Lisa, would you please come forward?
Stories would come, and I eventually started to giggle about it because I wish I had it recorded, because it was the same thing from all of us, me included, that he would remember us just by our voices, and if we were male, he would tell us when our bar mitzvah was, what our portion was, and sometimes he would tell us what day of the week we were born, and everybody just had the same response. And we knew from the very beginning, even when I went to see Jeff, he didn't tell you that when we watched the footage we cried, but just this incredible collective response to one man. I've never noticed that before or experienced that, even with people who are very well known and very famous. who people would buy tickets for to go and see, the emotional connection and response to one person, I've never felt that with anybody. So for me, I knew Canter Immerman because he taught me at school. And I think it's important to say that when we talk about Canter Immerman, often people talk about the mitzvah portions or him being a cantor in the synagogue. It's quite male-centered. But the truth is that because he taught at Herzliya for over 40 years, including at Hope Street, thousands upon thousands of girls and women have been affected by Canter Immerman, including me, which is why I and the woman who worked on the project with us have exactly the same connection to Canter Immerman as many of the thousands of people who had their bar mitzvahs with him, and as Jeff said, have got those cassettes in their drawers. He just was astounding. And he's here, and I think he would be delighted that we all have as a community. It's not a project by 3 or 4 or 5 people. It's all of us recognizing that we don't just want to remember him, but he modeled values and qualities about education, love, commitment, humility, Yiddishkeit. And we can use his story, which you'll see now, to pass that on to our children and children's children, and that's what Legacy of Light is all about. So when we thought about what we would do, we came up with the following idea. We wanted to make a short film that would be able to be passed around online, that teachers could use as part of a 50-minute lesson, that public speakers could use and play as a start to a talk that they would be giving to inspire people, that anybody could watch and be inspired and not feel that they needed to sit for a long period of time. And that's what we're going to play you tonight. What we've also done is we've created an edited 53-minute version of the interview that was done by myself and Sean O'Sullivan over 20 years ago at Hyman's house, and Sean is here tonight. We took a Betacam camera and we went and we sat with Canter Immerman and we just let him talk. And I found it in this Betacam box at the end of last year. And this is what we converted to digital and went to show Jeff. And so what we've done is we've also given people the opportunity to watch that full interview, and all of that is online. So as the evening progresses, we'll be sharing with you the way in which you can watch this film and share this film after tonight via an online platform and a special web page that we've created for Canter Immerman, and the way in which you can also take part. Because so many of you have come to tell your stories that you had something, an engagement with him or something you wanted to share, that you have pictures, that you have documents. You will be able to add to the collective memory and ongoing conversation of legacy that is available online. So what you'll see now is Legacy of Life, the short film that I made along with the amazing Sean Levine, who worked as the editor and the creative consultant on it. We worked together. And I want to thank again, I'll thank them a bit later, the donors who made this possible, who didn't hesitate and said, we want to fund this and we want to make this happen. So this is the film Legacy of Light. Enjoy.
As I said, I don't really have words to add to what was said before, and I'm just processing the video myself. But the first words or the thoughts that came to my mind watching the video is that expression, there are none so blind as those who will not see, where sometimes you can have people who have full eyesight and yet not appreciate the richness, the majesty, the magnificence, the depth of our lives. And yet you can have somebody like Canter Immerman, who had such clarity of vision. I was in shul this morning, and Eddie Oblowitz was our chazan, and afterwards we were talking about the event this evening, and he says, I remember when Canter Immerman, he was a neighbor of his, and when he used to walk up and down the street, he would stop and he would talk to Eddie and he would say, you live in this house? And Eddie would say, how do you know that this is my house? He says, because I could smell the flowers that your mother plants. And I was thinking that, you know, we all go through challenging moments in our own lives, times when we could feel blinded, helpless. And we have a man like Canter Immerman that reminds us and inspires us that even in those moments we can still smell the flowers. We can still know where we are and know where we're going. We can still see the light. And for him, it was the Torah that helped to guide him. That was the center of his life, which is such an inspiration for me, and I'm sure for all of us. There are so many messages that we could take from Canter Immerman's story. I think the other thing that came to my mind in the same theme was the story of that old Indian fellow who used to traverse every day from the little town well. He was a water carrier, and he'd go up to his master's house, and he had 2 buckets. And the one bucket was complete, and the other one had a crack in it. And every day he would schlep up to his master's house with only 1.5 buckets full of water. And the bucket with the crack in it, after a couple of months or whatever it was, started feeling so bad. Because here this water carrier is schlepping, and he only gets half a bucket full. And he turns to the water carrier and he says, I feel so bad that you're schlepping and I'm cracked, and you're not getting the full value from me. And the water carrier said, let me show you something. And he took him down the path that he would take every single day. And he says, look out to the side. And he saw there was beautiful flowers. And he says, you know, I realized your deficiency, your flaw. I saw that you had a crack. So what I did was I planted seeds. And every day as we walked up along this path, you would water these flowers. And now look how beautiful these flowers are today. And look on the other side, and there was no flowers. It was the one from the cracked bucket that made those flowers blossom. And the water carrier says to the bucket, he says, my master's house, I would take these flowers and I'd put them every day, fresh flowers on his table to grace the home. But without you and without your flaw, I couldn't have done that. And I look around the shul today and I see an adoring community of a man who really touched so many lives, who sprouted so many flowers in such a beautiful way. But it was the crack that allowed him, and I think was his own blindness, that I think was a big part of his light shining through and finding the light within others, smelling the flowers and appreciating every human being and every aspect of life for the wonderful gift that it is. And so I'm touched and I'm moved by watching this video and being part of this together with all of you, and I just hope and I pray that we could all take this legacy of Canter Immerman, of positivity, of hope, of faith, and of finding the light within the darkness, from within that crack, and causing those flowers to sprout in our own lives, taking that legacy, continuing it into the next generation. Thank you.
If you looked at how Canter Immerman, he had a vision. And people were always thinking that the minute you are blind, your sixth sense kicks in automatically. It doesn't. That's one of your biggest challenges you have in your life. As a blind person, your sixth sense kicks only in if you make it work. And obviously, he strove towards making his sixth sense work for him. We are honored by the fact in what he has done. And I'm so happy that you went to the Worcester School for the Blind, because without education you can do nothing. I was honored to be at the Athens School for the Blind. I was born with meningitis. I was born blind. With my speech, I'm stuttering as much now because you make me feel welcome. Thank you very much. And with that, there's a lot of challenges many people go through, as the Rabbi was saying. You don't need to overcome all those challenges. You take them one by one. You eat the elephant bit by bit. I brought my teacher, Vincent Daniels, here, because I started the society in 1979 as a weaver. And he brought me into the awareness world where I am today. I love what I'm doing because I'm mostly working with children, with universities. The only thing I'm doing is to show them how to respect blind people as well as other people. I show them how to communicate with blind people. How many of you have seen blind people before this? They're walking with a cane and you would just pass them. That is one of the most horrible things people can do to a visually impaired or blind person. Go up to the blind person, speak to him, see if you can help him. You know, that we are trained at the Cape Town Society for the Blind, how to walk with a cane. But from point A to point B, we don't know what is in between that. That's where you come in. I want to thank you very, very much for having me here on the podium to speak to you. Awareness never ends. Awareness is an ongoing thing. And this is one of the best ways of showing awareness of people who achieved in their life and wasn't selfish or is not selfish to share what they know. He knew the Torah out of his head. He shared it with children. He shared it with people. And today, his legacy will live on forever. Thank you.
I'm kind of the MC as well, and this is all happening. Cedric, thank you. And I think Canter Immerman would be delighted that we'll be making donations in his name to the Cape Town Society for the Blind. So what we're going to have for the next sort of half an hour or so to round off the evening, after which we invite you to come to Ritterberg for some tea and coffee and some biscuits, and also the South African Jewish Museum has stayed open so that you can go in there for free and enjoy an hour or so there. Is we're going to have various people sharing some stories and also family members of Canter Immerman. But first, when I went to get some robes that our actors, our volunteer actors, could wear in the film, I thought, who do I go to get the robes from? And of course, I thought my friend Ivor. So I went to Ivor, and he very kindly lent us his white cantorial robes, which you saw in the film. And then Ivor started to tell me stories as only Ivor could. And of course, Ivor has a story, or 5, about Canter Immerman, and he wanted to dedicate some song to Canter Immerman tonight, along with a few of the young learners from Herzliya School. So please give a warm welcome to Ivor.
Good evening, everyone. In 1977, I started as a grade 1 pupil, or sub-A at the time, and I walked through the doors of Herzliya Highlands Primary School. During my time at Herzliya Highlands Primary School, Canter Immerman used to come round from class to class, as you've heard this evening, and he used to sing and share his Jewish music with the students of Herzliya School. In 1979, my family moved from Kampspade to Oranjezicht, and we joined the Skunder Street Shul. So I not only saw Canter Immerman in the school classroom and at school, but I saw him in Shul, at Skunder Street Shul, whenever he was able to be there, because as you heard on the movie, sometimes he was double booked or triple booked on one Shabbat to attend a bar mitzvah of one of his pupils. In 1982, my parents phoned Canter Immerman and asked him what parasha would be my bar mitzvah portion. Canter Immerman then asked on the telephone, when is Iva's birthday? To which my mother told him, and I don't mind if you hear it, the 17th of August, 1970. With that, within less than 1 minute, less than 30 seconds, Canter Immerman, as I saw myself over the years later, Canter Immerman worked out the date on the telephone in less than a minute. And the way that he would do it was he would say the date of birth, and then he would say a few more days, and then he would stop with the months. He would just say Wednesday, Thursday. He would hear this calculation in his mind. And it was remarkable that the portion which was closest to my birth date is Ra'eh, the parasha that we read in shul yesterday, all over the world in Orthodox shuls. And this is the book that I used in 1983 for my bar mitzvah. Ra'eh means see, S-E-E, see. So this was the beginning of a very close bond and very wonderful association that I had with Canter Immerman. Three other anecdotes I'd like to share with you. The first one is that I remember my very first lesson for my bar mitzvah. My bar mitzvah was in 1983. But in 1982, in a cold August afternoon, I went to Canter Immerman's apartment, and he opened the door, and he recognized my voice from shul and school and everywhere, and he said to me, "Ivor, take a seat at the dining room table." So I sat down at the dining room table, and he proceeded to say to me, "Have you got the book number 46, which I asked you to get at Bankenstadt?" I said, "Yes, I've got it right here." "Have you got a pencil?" "Yes, Canter Immerman." And he started the lesson. 20 minutes into the lesson, the doorbell rang. And then Canter Immerman sat down, he didn't move, but it was just a warning that someone was about to open the door. And it was his domestic worker, his helper, Dorothy. And Dorothy walked into the dining room, and she said, "Wat gaan aan hierso? What is going on?" And Canter Immerman said, "I'm teaching Ivor his bar mitzvah portion." She said, "Ivor, how can you learn like this? It's pitch dark." It's absolutely pitch dark. It was a dark August afternoon. And being the 12-year-old shy little boy that I was too scared to ask if I could switch on the light. So I was sitting there like this the whole time, close to the bar mitzvah book, and when she switched the light on, almost like a metaphor, the light shone, and that was the beginning of my bar mitzvah tuition. Then a few months later, we progressed to the Haftarah, and Canter Immerman said to me, "The Haftarah you will find on page 20. And I turned to page 20, and there it was. And the second verse reads as follows: "V'samti chad kol shimshotayich, u'she'arayich le'avnei ekdach, v'chol kvolech le'avnei chayfetz." V'samti chad kod, that's how it starts. And he said, the trop will be like this: Mercha tibcha. V'samti chad kod shimshotayich. And he said, "Now Ivor, I want you to sing it back to me." And I sang it back to him. And I went, "V'samti chad chod shimshotayich." And he said, "Sing it again." And I sang it again. "V'samti chad chod shimshotayich." And he said, "Dorothy, Ivor wants some tea." At the end of almost every lesson, Canter Immerman would ask me to go to the to the post box. And he said, I would like you to go to the post box. It was never going to be an extended lesson. He wasn't going to keep my parents waiting, but he said, about 5 minutes before the end of the lesson, he said, please would you go to the post box and collect the newspaper for me, the Argus. I went to get the Argus, and I brought it back into the room, and this time the light was already on, Baruch Hashem, so I sat there, and I opened up the newspaper, and he said to me, Ivor, would you please read for me the classified page? Because he knew everyone in the community, everyone knew him, and he didn't want to feel any foibles, he didn't want to have any foibles, so he wanted to be kept up to date as the chazan in a community, and he wanted to wish everyone accordingly at the appropriate time. So I started reading for him births, engagements, consecrations, deaths. And this went on almost every lesson, except in summer when he used to take the newspaper, he used to say, just collect it for me please and bring it in. I would give it to him, and then when I left, he would walk out with me and he would walk over with the newspaper to Canter a few houses down the road. And Canter would then read the classifieds for him. But when I read it for him after the second time, he said to me, isn't it amazing, Ivor? He said, the people in Cape Town pass away in alphabetical order every single week. And I can honestly say that Canter Immerman was an inspiration and one of my mentors, because what he did was incredible. He was the chazan in a community. He taught Jewish music at the school, and he taught bar mitzvah, and that is exactly what I do today. Thank you. Venanigen, wie a Sohn, was do wen hot gespielt, Fagott, no der, was nicht gewinnt, als sei es schwer. Besingt azoi afar asol, a mishaberach, em takot de gure, elefete, halleluja. Halleluja, 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 halleluja.
Good evening. Canter Abe Immerman was my uncle. He and my late father, Joe Barwin, shared the same mother, as Lisa told you, Sarah Schutz Immerman. She was widowed. I don't know too much about Canter Immerman's father, but he was killed tragically. And Sarah was widowed with two small children, Bessie and Abby. She then married Hillel Simon. He had had 6 children with a previous wife, and they then had 2 more children, Helen and my father Joe. She died in childbirth when my father, giving birth to my father, and she then married Hillel Simon. I think I'm sorry. Hillel was too old to look after the 4 little ones, and Helen and Joe and Abby and Bessie were adopted by the Barwins, Ethel and Abram, who had no children of their own. And Hillel used to take Uncle Abe to shore, put him on his lap, and encourage him to listen to the services. And he learned to chant the entire Torah and all the prayers. And then he went on to the Worcester School for the Blind. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional tonight. It's been really fantastic. My father, Joe, would be extremely touched and proud to be here tonight to see this incredible film and how you've preserved Uncle Abe's legacy. And I want to thank Lisa and the whole team who made this possible, and just to say that our family were very proud of all of Uncle Abe's achievements, and thanks very much.
Very much, Lisa, for arranging such a beautiful honouring of such an incredible man. So I'm reading a letter that was written by his good friend, Morris Marcus, who's 90 years old and is living in Israel. I'm writing some incidents of the life of my dear friend, Abraham ben Abraham, who came forth on the 4th of the 4th. That are not common knowledge, but that I remember vividly and should be known. On his 80th birthday, he had his first trip to Israel. On landing at Ben Gurion Airport on Sunday morning, he kissed the ground with tears of joy. That afternoon, at Beit Protea in Herzliya, 300 South Africans came from all over Israel to welcome and greet him.
He recognized them all by voice and name and told them associations and bar mitzvah portions. There wasn't a dry eye among the 600 worshippers. In walks a blind man to the most prestigious shul in Israel and delivers a matfia as only Abe could do with his beautiful voice and perfect diction. He was applauded and literally carried off the bina. During President Clinton's visit to South Africa, I met one of his press secretaries, Arthur E. Green of Washington, at a function. I asked him in passing if he knew the day he was born. He was amazed at the question and said that he always wanted to know. I told him about the blind chazan. He asked me to call him on Monday morning at 7 a.m. and he would try and fit him in. I did that, and he said he would only have 30 minutes to spare. I picked up Mr. and Mrs. Green at the correct time and took them to Highland's house, where Abe was recuperating from his operation. Abe was honoured by their visit and asked about the president. He then asked Mr. Green what date he was born, and then touched his fingertips and exclaimed, Thursday. He also calculated Mrs. Green's birthday. The Greens were so taken up with this phenomenal man that they spent nearly 2 hours with him, questioning and listening to his story. Abe also had a unique sense of humour. The best story that he loved to tell when he lived in Zestro. A reverend used to teach several times a week, and Abe absorbed and memorized it all. When it came to question time, he would always be the first with answers. This annoyed the other Cheder pupils so much that the teacher turned to Abe and said, Chavnat. This was the name he retained while he was at Zestro, much to his amusement. He also loved puns, and these were some of his classics. Did you know there was a Jewish family in the North Pole? They were the icebergs, God's frozen people. On reading Parash Paran, the Haifa was highly educated. It was well read. He used to tell people that his kippah was his handicap. He used to say, what's a kichel? A hearing aid. When invited to a function, he'd say, I'd love to come. What time will I see you? After recovering from his first fall, I managed to acquire a flat for him opposite the Merero Road Shul. The flat was renovated by the B'nai Brit. The late Norman Isaacson, the ever-busy and amazing shamash of the shul, then took control of Abe. He would fetch him for prayers and functions and shiurim at shul, which made him very happy. Unfortunately, Abe fell again, and after being discharged from hospital, he went back to Highland's house. Often, in our long association, I would get a call from him asking me if I was going to attend a funeral at Pinelands and if I could take him with me. I would pick him up, and the procedure was always the same. As we were driving away, he would say, Reb Moshe, and I would say, Reb Avram. Reb Moshe, people die nowadays who never died before. And an impish smile would appear on his face as if he had expounded something profound. Further on, he would say, Reb Moshe, and I would say, yes, Reb Avram. Reb Moshe, people are dying to come to Pinelands. And again, the impish smile would appear. Then, as we approached Pinelands, his demeanor would change. Reb Moshe, he would say, yes, Reb Avram, I would say. You go to Johannesburg. and come back? Yes. You go to Israel and come back? Yes. You go to Oudtshoorn and come back? Yes. But people who go to Pinelands never come back. Why? Why, Rebbe Avram? Then his face would turn angelic, and he would say, because it must be good to be there in the hands of God. That was the creed by which he lived. May his memory be a blessing to us all. He passed away on the Sunday after celebrating his third bar mitzvah on Shabbat at Highlands House Shul.
It would be wonderful to invite Solly Alpert, Canter Immerman's first bar mitzvah boy in Cape Town, who's now in his 80s and also featured in the film. When you saw Canter Immerman walking next to the bus, there was a young man walking with him. That was Solly Alpert, aged probably about 16. So Solly, would you come up and fill in the gap? And then we're going to slowly work our way towards the end of the evening and have some tea and coffee and share stories, and I'll tell you also how you can tell your story to camera, and we can add it to the next edition of the film.
A lot of what I was going to say has already been said. I came fourth on the fourth, on the fourth, on the fourth. 3 times 4. What does that mean? That means in other languages that he was born on the 4th of April 1904. And what was his name? His name was Abraham. He was named after his late father, so he was always known as Abraham ben Abraham. How did I become his first pupil? In those days there was no Hersleer, so I was educated at Sachs, and Sachs was very sports orientated. And I used to go in the afternoon to the Cheder in Hope Street, and the principal came up to me one day, Alexander Levine, and he said, Shlomo, you haven't been attending Cheder. I told him that I'm very, very, very interested in sports, and that interferes with my Cheder lessons. He told me to bring my father to see him, and my father came, and I convinced my father to take me out of Cheder, which he did. And then came the time to try and study bar mitzvah lessons. There were 2 teachers in Cape Town that were teaching, mostly like a parrot, a Mr. Sadowski and a Reverend Cooperman. And my father then heard about the Chazan, the blind Chazan Immerman, and he made an appointment to see him with me, and we went to meet him. We worked out by my date of birth that my portion would be Shoftim. And Shoftim happens to be, by coincidence, this coming Shabbat, which I will be doing at Or Samach, and you're all invited to attend. So we agreed to have lessons with Canter Immerman. And as we were leaving, he said, Mr. Alpert, and this word still ring out in my memory, Mr. Alpert, your son Shlomo is going to be my first bar mitzvah pupil in Cape Town. And on him depends my future teaching bar mitzvah. I had a lovely soprano voice, and I did excellently. And you can hear it again later this coming Saturday. The rest is legend. He taught my 2 brothers. He also taught my 2 sons. And my younger son, he was always, when he taught him, he used to remind that he must thank your mother for the lovely cheesecake that she always sent with him. He loved the cheesecake. We started lessons, and he didn't teach it like a parrot. He said, before we go on with the lessons, you must learn the trop. So I said, what's the trop? So he says, well, above every word in the Torah is a little note, and you will learn those notes and you will sing the words according to those notes. Well, I did that, and it was quite interesting. Just as a matter of interest, I've now become a teacher also of bar mitzvahs, and I taught my grandson, who lives in London, the trop and his haftorah on Skype. And 5 years ago, he came to Cape Town to celebrate his bar mitzvah here. Our family relationship grew, and he was famous for making speeches. He had a typewriter, which he used to actually type the speeches out. And up to quite a few years ago, I kept all those speeches. But unfortunately, they were destroyed in a fire at our factory a few years ago. He also proposed the toast to Gwen and myself at our wedding, and I made wonderful speeches at all our simchas. Unfortunately, he was diabetic, and he had one leg amputated, and then after a few years later, another leg amputated. But he never, ever did I hear him complain. And he never had a bad word to say about anybody. And later came the time approached for his third bar mitzvah. Unfortunately, he was too very ill to participate in the bar mitzvah, and I did his haftorah for him. And I've continued to doing it every year since he passed away. On Pesach, second day of Pesach, I will continue to do that as long as I'm alive. Lisa, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this wonderful occasion, and I wish you well in the future. Thank you very much.
What we're going to do for the next 4 minutes before we, you're right, Sonny, before we call up Debbie and Jeff to close the evening, is we're going to be handing out this little flyer to you when you leave. My troop of girlfriends have stepped forward to help. And on it is the website that you would go to if you want to watch us online and share it with anybody with the instructions. So make sure you get one of those. They'll also be standing outside with collection boxes, and there'll be a table where you'll be able to also make a donation. There's some DVDs if you want to inquire about those as well. But what we've done is we've put together a very short guide, and I'll talk you through it. Because the point of this evening is not just to show a film. The point is to give you an opportunity to share it and to share his story and use it in all sorts of forums around the world. So let's take a look. How to access it online. It's very easy. This is the Life Stories website. This is the website that I have, and we've created a special page. You type in lifestories.co.za at the top. That's how obviously you get there. And at the top you'll see a whole bunch of tabs. What you'll do is you'll choose the one which says Watch Interviews, and you're almost there. This is how easy it is. Canter Abe Immerman is at the top. My grandfather is underneath him, so you can watch that too if you're in the mood. Canter Abe Immerman, click it. What we've done is this is his page. This is the page that you can engage with. And on the left is the film that you saw this evening, and on the right is the 53-minute edited full interview, including a transcript, where you can engage and you can watch more about his life. Click onto it, and there's the film. You can also make it bigger if you want to show it to people on full screen, just to show you. There's Shelley, who was just amazing, I must tell you, in just supporting us in this project and giving us lots of resources and just keeping us going. And once again, on the right-hand side, you just click onto it, it'll start to play, and if you want it big, that's the main interview. It's fascinating if you're interested in his life. It's him talking about his life. All sorts of things about his father dying, about his mom, about what it was like for him being at the Worcester School for the Blind, about how he made that decision that he would go and be a cantor and not do a trade that they particularly wanted him to, and also how he travelled around South Africa, Uitenhage and elsewhere, being a cantor. They're available from tomorrow. How you can get involved, this is the most important thing. If you have any photographs of Canter Immerman or any film, please send it. We've created a gallery where some of the pictures that we have, we've uploaded. And I'd love for you to email us. All the details are on the website. Any photographs that you have of him. This is his online archive. And it's up to all of us to keep populating it. That's the famous sketch done by Esther Serdat. Absolutely beautiful. There's Shelley and Canter Immerman. This is from Shelley's family archive. Textual archive, very important. So below the gallery, the memories from Maury Marcus that Laura read, it's there for you to read the whole thing and you can share it. We've uploaded it and there it is. Amazing story about President Clinton, etc. Also, we have articles. We've just taken a few of them. There are many in the Gitlin, and of course the Chronicle and others have got articles. We've just taken a few. But we thought that for people who don't know Canter Immerman, it's an amazing way for them to see how he made the press. So if you're a teacher, or if your grandchildren or your children are doing projects at school about inspiring people, you can send them to this page. Eran Tahor has helped us to create an amazing Hebrew subtitled version.
To the countryside.
Isn't that great? We're going to send it to Israel.
When Herzliya relocated
There's Solly on the left.
up the hill.
And you'll be able to get that as well on the website. Comments and stories, this is where you engage. I'm not sure who Hessel Melech is, but he posted a comment. Rob also posted a comment. Someone called Aubrey Kravitz posted a comment, very interesting. You can post yours as well. They can be long, they can be short, but this is where people will get to get an idea. What's the biggest room in the world? After many incorrect guesses by the class, he'd gleefully give us the answer, room for improvement. So we're going to scroll down a little bit more, and that is the place where you will write the stories. You're all here because you have stories, so write them. And we want hundreds of comments. And you can share his webpage, and that's the way that you spread the word and keep it alive. So you can just get this little piece of paper, don't have to think about it, and you'll be able to do all of that. And if you're stuck and you're not sure, go onto the Herzliya website, and they will have the Canter Immerman film there for you as well. Okay, so we'd like to invite Debbie Sweezer up to draw the evening almost to a close.
I was in primary school. I used to spend a lot of my time running up and down the stairs of the school. And I would very often encounter Canter Immerman walking up or down to go to his classes. And he always used to shout at me and used to say to me, stop running, one day you're going to fall. And I was always grateful that he didn't know who it was. But we used to go to the Friedhochschule, and he often used to come to the Friedhochschule, and I'll never ever forget this. It was a Simchat Torah, and Canter Immerman was visiting the shul. And lo and behold, I was running up and down the stairs and outside and everywhere, and I fell and I broke both my arms. And I ran into shul screaming and shouting, and Canter Immerman turned around to my father and he said, I told her one day she'd fall. So Canter Immerman, as we've all heard, was an amazing, amazing man. I have an analogy, especially when I'm standing in the shul and I have a look at it, is that when architects build homes and they build houses and even synagogues, they always ensure that the windows are placed in a certain area so that light can shine in. But the Midrash actually tells us that the Beit HaMikdash was very different. that the windows were placed in certain areas so that the light could shine out. And it was the light of emunah, of faith, and of Torah that would shine out to the world. And for me, that's a perfect analogy for Canter Immerman, because he had that light of emunah and of humility, and just a man who was very appreciative and thankful for his lot that would actually shine out to the rest of the world. The legacy of light is very much about preserving memories and heritage, and it's very, very vital for us as grandparents, parents, teachers, to ensure that our children are given the opportunity to actually capture those moments in time. And I think that this video that Lisa has made, together with her team, is just a perfect example, and we're certainly going to be using that at school to educate our children about the legacy of light, about Canter Immerman and his amazing job that he had. But also, coincidentally, is at the same time that we, for the first time at Herzliya Middle School, entered into a global competition from Beit HaTfutzot Museum in Israel, where our grade 8 pupils actually created their life stories, and where they captured the light of their families and their heritage and their generations. And we have an exhibition, as Lisa said, at the Jewish Museum next door. We had our opening last week Thursday, where a winner was chosen out of 21 finalists, and the 21 finalists are exhibited at the museum. And a winner was chosen where she will take her project with her to Israel to actually be exhibited in Beit HaTfutzot Museum, which is a huge, huge win for us, not just Herzliya School, but as a Jewish community on the whole, to have from Cape Town in South Africa somebody in the museum. So we were at a conference this morning with the chief rabbi, and he just mentioned something which was very, very interesting to me. And he spoke about the light of connection. And I think the light of connection is something very, very important. And just seeing everybody over here, it's very evident that Canter Immerman had a light of connection to every single person sitting here and beyond internationally. So thank you very much, Lisa, for putting this together.
So that draws the evening to a close, although she just whispered in my ear she's got something else to say. Always wants to have the last word. Just a couple of housekeeping points. There's tea and biscuits and coffee on the piazza, that's what it's called, Rabbi? Piazza. And there are some donation boxes if you'd like to pop some money in for the Society for the Blind. It would be wonderful. You've heard from Debbie about the invite to visit the museum next door if you have time. I know it's getting a bit late. And then there are also DVDs available if you'd like to get those on order at Retilla. And that's it. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to be involved in this process, in this project. We certainly, as Debbie said, are going to be using it at the school. And Lisa, you want to say the last word?
I want to thank our incredible donors, Jeff and those at Herzliya. It was so cool. We just went there and they partnered. It's everyone's project, but Jeff, you've been amazing, and also your staff, Lisa and Tracy. To the South African Jewish Museum, who initially said that they would host it for us, and their team, Natasha taking all the calls, and then also to the rabbi and to the Garden Shul, to Solly Berger, who actually gave us that 1940s film, which is very interesting because that's the only film that exists of Hope Street, filmed by Mr. Evan. He was a cinematographer. He filmed the stuff, and Solly had it and has made it available. So it's very interesting. You should watch the whole thing, Jeff. Also, so to Gavin and his team, I want to really thank all the participants and the interviewees in the film. I can see a whole bunch of you here. You were just superb. Everybody stepped up amazingly, including our very famous actor who played the role of Canter Immerman, and my dad, who stood in as well. When my dad dressed up as Canter Immerman with the hat and the cane, walked up and down Budokan Street, the petrol attendants at the engine, who've known him for how many years, just couldn't understand why is Mr. Chait walking around with a white stick and a hat. It's very funny. In fact, one of them got dressed up in Canter Immerman's hat, which is my granddad's hat, and also the stick. So it was just amazing. I'm not going to mention all of you, but you've been incredible. To Sean Levine, my partner in arms, to Sean O'Sullivan, who filmed with me, to Eaton de Jong and to Iran Tahora over the last couple of weeks has been translating the Hebrew version. Solly, thank you to Vivian Basky and her beautiful, beautiful paintings of the shore, which are also available currently. If you just take some time and go to the museum next door, they're on the walls. It's unbelievable what Vivian did. Thank you. Special hello to members of Canter Immerman's family, those who are here and who are not here. And thanks to all of you, members of the community who've responded so absolutely beautifully. This is your project. Thank you very, very much.